Space is the final frontier, but it's no longer a place where no man has ever gone before. The International Space Station is basically our home in space. It's a large spacecraft in orbit around Earth and serves as a home for crews of astronauts and cosmonauts. It's going to be there until 2030, but then what happens after that? Blue Origin's space station, called Orbital Reef, just got the go-ahead from NASA to replace the ISS. First up, the new space station could be ready as early as 2027. The International Space Station will be ending its useful life in about 8 years. Surely, that's not the end of our space research and operations, so the National Aeronautical and Space Administration is funding a commercial low Earth orbit development program, or CLD for short. This is basically to encourage aerospace firms to build new stations, and it seems like they finally have a plan. A proposal from Blue Origin and Sierra Space just got the green light to move forward on putting together this space station. This new station will be called Orbital Reef. It was actually submitted to NASA for system definition review earlier this year in the summer. This report provided information to the agency to ascertain the feasibility of the design. There was good news for Blue Origin and Sierra Space. NASA approved their report and proposal, and initial timelines indicate that they could possibly even start building as early as 2026. And the brand new space station could begin operations as early as 2027. Up next, it's not just Blue Origin that'll be putting together this space station. Essentially, the platform will serve as a mixed-use business park in space. The station will be utilized for research, industrial, international, and commercial customers as well. And the company, Blue Origin, will provide space transportation, logistics, habitation, equipment, accommodation, and operations for the space station. The utility systems, large core modules, and reusable heavy-lift New Glenn launch system will be made by Blue Origin. While it is the main force behind it, there are other collaborators on the mega project as well. Sierra Space is responsible for the large integrated flexible environment module, node module, and runway landing Dream Chaser spaceplane for crew and cargo transportation. This will be capable of landing on runways anywhere in the world. Boeing will be putting together the station operations and maintenance engineering and the Starliner crew spacecraft. Microgravity research, development, and manufacturing, payload operations, and deployable structures will be done by Redwire Space. The single-person aircraft for routine operations and tourist excursions will be done by Genesis Engineering Solutions. Yup, you heard that right. Space tourism is very much on the table. And lastly, Arizona State University will lead a consortium of universities from around the world that will provide research advisory and public outreach. This includes the University of Oxford, Stanford University, and International Space University. Coming up, just how Orbital Reef will be different from the current ISS. Space on the ISS is controlled completely by the partnering space agencies. It's a multinational project involving 5 participating space agencies: NASA from the United States, Roscosmos from Russia, JAXA from Japan, ESA from Europe, and CSA from Canada. But the new commercial project will be different. For starters, it's a business enterprise. Blue Origin claims that the space station will be the first one with open system architecture. This will allow a variety of people and customers to use the facility. This includes space agencies, tech companies, entrepreneurs, investors, and even media and travel companies. It will provide the full suite of services for anyone who may want to use the space station. This will include everything from transport, leasing space, and tech assistance with hardware and robotic services. Tom Weiss, the CEO of Sierra Space, said that the microgravity factories in particular on board the Orbital Reef will have the potential to revolutionize almost every industry. They will become major contributors to the growth of the global economy. Meanwhile, how much do we know about this upcoming space station project so far? So the project will be able to house 10 astronauts in a volume that's similar to the current International Space Station configuration. It will also have advanced labs for microgravity experiments, manufacturing capacity, and accommodations for space tourists. Yep, a hotel in space. How cool is that? We hope it's comfortable though. The collaborating companies said they envision Boeing's new Starliner spacecraft and Sierra Space's Dream Chaser, providing human and cargo transport to Orbital Reef. Although the Dream Chaser has yet to fly, and the Starliner hasn't flown people into orbit just yet, the expected plan is to launch most of Orbital Reef's modules on Blue Origin's future New Glenn rocket. But that's another rocket that hasn't flown yet. And yes, we do have more details on that space hotel too. It seems that the facility will have large Earth-facing windows, and you'll actually be able to see your planet, all while experiencing the thrill of weightlessness. They made it a point to talk talk about comfort too. The team has been mum about just how much the project will cost, but we do know that it's part of NASA's Commercial Low Earth Orbit Development Program, and it has received funding accordingly. Lastly, Blue Origin's Orbital Reef isn't the only space station that's going up. In December 2021, NASA gave the team some $130 million. This was as a part of the Commercial Low Earth Orbit Development Program. It aims to get at least one commercial space station up and running before the ISS retires in 2030. At the same time, two other private space station projects also received funding from NASA. One of these is Starlab, which is led by the NanoRacks, which got about $160 million. Another one is headed up by Northrop Grumman, the aerospace giant. They received about $125 million. All three commercial space stations are expected to be up and running in 2027, but there could be a fourth orbital outpost too, and it will be hosting space tourists, manufacturing companies, and other customers. Axiom Space has a separate deal with NASA. They will launch several modules to the ISS starting in the year 2024. The modules will eventually detach and become a commercial outpost of their own. And now, let's look at some more news from the final frontier. First up, Hilton is all set to take its hospitality into space. And yes, it's definitely got to do with all these space stations going up in Earth's lower orbit. We're definitely still thinking about space vacays. The global hotel giant will be setting up a space in a future Earth-orbiting Starlab space station with NanoRacks, Voyager Space, and Lockheed Martin. It was announced in 2021. Hilton will bring the company's acclaimed hospitality expertise and experience to support the design and development of suites for the crew aboard Starlab. And it's going to take a complete reimagining of the human experience in space. This is particularly important as we are looking at more extended stays in space. The Starlab will have room to host 4 astronauts at a time. Hilton launched the first cookie to be baked in space under its brand DoubleTree. They later hinted the Smithsonian may display at least one of the cookies that returned to Earth in January 2020. Up next, NASA is investigating a glitch on one of the James Webb Space Telescope's cameras. The James Webb Space Telescope's ultra-cold camera has experienced a technical glitch that is forcing its ground team to delay some observations. The trouble is with its mid-infrared instrument's grading wheel. This allows scientists to choose the wavelength of the light they want to focus on. The wheel is used in only one of MIRI's 4 observation modes. That's the medium-resolution spectroscopy mode, in which the camera doesn't take pictures but captures light spectra. These are basically fingerprints of light absorption of the various chemicals in the objects being observed. The teams first detected friction in the wheel around late August. This was shared by NASA officials in a statement released earlier this week. After further investigations, they decided to pause observations. On the 6th of September, the agency convened an anomaly review board to decide what would be the best way forward. And now we wait and see how this glitch will be dealt with. Lastly, NASA's DART mission will put on an asteroid-smashing show. On the 27th of September, we will get to watch it live. The mission is something that's never happened. NASA's asteroid-bashing spacecraft will make for some dramatic visuals next week. The Double Asteroid Redirection Test probe will zoom toward the asteroid moonlet called Dimorphos and try to change its orbit around its parent body, the asteroid called Didymos. The broadcast will feature images from DART's Draco instrument. The acronym stands for Didymos Reconnaissance and Asteroid Camera for optical navigation, but Draco sounds so much cooler. The real action show will happen about 2 minutes before the impact. That's when the asteroid will begin to fill the view of the camera. This is all great practice for a method of asteroid deflection called kinetic impacting. If it ever happens that some asteroid is on a collision course with our planet, then an impactor, like DART, could knock it out of the way. That said, there's no such threat to human civilization for the next 100 years or so. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think commercial space stations will make space exploration and research easier? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.